Welcome everyone. Today will be really a special day because we are starting a new series on this YouTube channel. So if this event goes well, this might become a series of DevRel roundtables. And I see Daphna in the chat. So if you're in the chat, just feel free to say hi. How are you? Hello. Today I really want to have open conversation. I'm happy because I met in person all the people here multiple times with them. So yes. So first of all, let's introduce ourselves. I will be host, co-host, and speaker at the same time. And Nimrod is here also to help out. So let's start, and maybe we can let people introduce themselves. I would like to start with Amanda, and then we'll start.
All right. Hi, everybody. I see Richard's here. I already saw Richard is everywhere, by the way. That is the hype man of the moment right now. I'm Amanda. For anybody watching who does not know me, I am a developer advocate at Wix. I support our Wix Studio product, which is a great product for developers. I've been here for about 3 years. Prior to that, web developer, a little bit of everything. I've touched a lot of different things, and I love to talk about dev. If you don't like to talk about dev, I'm not sure why you're here, but I also cook, bike, and have dogs, and I can talk about that too.
Great. So Char is he is everywhere, and hype is his middle name. Yes. Okay. Perfect. Let's go with Ellie first. Ellie.
Okay, I'm Ellie. I'm a developer advocate at Pieces, and I'll share my hobbies too, because I guess that's what we're doing. I have 2 cats, Peter and Missy. They're really, really cute, and apparently there's some balloons coming out. I also love playing League of Legends, so that is my intro. And I did meet Francesco and Amanda. I've never met Nimrod in real life though, but now we're meeting here. So, and hello, Richard. I just saw him at another event like 2 seconds ago. So.
Yes, so I'd like to ask which is your favorite role in League of Legends. Maybe this can be a topic for another live stream, or if we have like 2 minutes at the end. But yes, let's go with Nimrod. Nimrod, introduce yourself. I love your background.
Thank you. Yes, it's all thanks to my wife. She took care of that. I'm Nimrod. I'm the CEO and co-founder of daily.dev. I'll be happy to host the event today with Francesco. Since we went with the hobbies, I'm gonna do it as well. I really love table tennis. I used to play semi-pro for quite some time. I love playing guitar. I love Japan, and I love coffee, not necessarily in that order. But the thing that I'm mostly passionate about is just helping the developer community grow and become even more professional than what it already is, and just help to distribute knowledge and do good to the world and everyone who codes out there.
That's great. And I am Francesco, developer advisor here at daily.dev. And I've been working here for many years, I think more than 3 years now. We are doing this series on live event, which is probably my favorite format. If you're in the chat, feel free to say hi. And also, let me know what do you know about DevRel. We see Arindam here. And yes. Perfect. So I think we can start. We would like to stay, let's say, less than 1 hour probably. So we'll have some questions because and today the main topic is the DevRel strategies. So our goal is to have maybe some main topic for each roundtable, and then we can discuss pros and cons. And I really like that we have an open space because I think that everyone has their own perspective in DevRel. But before going into the main topic, I need to go with the mandatory question, which is what is DevRel? Because without that, any other question has no significance. So who would like to give definition? I would also like to have the Nimrod one. Maybe would like to try to give their current, let's say, end of 2024 definition of DevRel.
I'll be the last to ask. I want to spice up your question a little bit. So what is DevRel? And I want to add to it, what do you think, is it more? Is it more art or is it more science, and why?
Can I answer first, just because I feel like everybody's answers are going to be better than mine, so I want to answer first. So
we're going to improve. Okay, so we
Right.
can start with Ellie.
Yeah. I'd rather start with mine because I feel like Amanda has a 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10 answer, and then after you hear mine, I'm going to be like, yeah, that too. So I think DevRel. I'll go backwards. I think it's more of an art, maybe. What did you say, art or science? I think it's more of an art, but obviously with all of the metrics stuff that goes on with DevRel, you have to track that stuff. But like, let's be real, I think most DevRel people don't want to. So it's like you're forced to do that part essentially. But in my opinion, there's a lot of creativity that goes into it. And like Amanda said before we started the stream, a lot of DevRel might be theater kids. So, if you don't have a personality where you can actually talk to people and get that feedback from users and then also tell your team about it, then how are you going to be able to do your job essentially? And then what is DevRel? I think just like to put it simply, it's the point between the developers, the product, and all of the users. And you want to kind of create that community that makes users feel as connected as possible to the development process or how the product is improving over time. So that is my definition, but we'll see what everybody else says.
All right.
Yeah, thank you, Ellie. Yeah, Amanda, you can go next.
So we have to come in. I think that was a great foundation. So there's not too much more to say, not really. So I'm going to start with the same direction that Ellie started. I do kind of think of it as this art, but it's art supported by science, right? Because it is art supported by metrics, art supported by outcomes. We wouldn't exist if we weren't effective, right? And we are the voice of the developer. And sometimes we're the voice of the developer from the community perspective, where we're essentially being like, this is what our developers experience every single day. And the reason we're good at that is because we have been developers, either in a professional sense, or we have been maybe studying it out in the community, doing our own thing for a long time. We know what it feels like. And then we're also the voice of the developer for the company, for the devs that are building tools every day that the developer community uses. And sometimes they're the voice of those developers being like, they built this cool thing, but maybe don't have that voice and that theater kid side, I guess, to be able to explain the value. So we're translating back and forth between two developer communities often, one that supports your company goals and one that supports the goals of the people who want to use and build and be connected to your product. And then, there's education, there's marketing, there's layers. We do a little bit of everything as well, but at the core of it, it always comes back to the developers and being really involved in the community, whether it's internal, your current users, or just the external world of developers. You have to really love developers as people is the whole point.
So are developers people? That's the next question.
Oh my
Maybe
God.
not Devin, right?
I like how sometimes we talk like there are the people and then the developers, like they are like a separate. Now I would like to try to answer Nimrod about is that science or art, with one simple like question, like, do you think an actor would be a great DevRel? I think there might be very good DevRels. Of course, they will need some technical knowledge, but I think Hollywood actor might be a great DevRel. So because this is really all about the communication. So and sometimes the companies, they have new products that you can like learn just about that. But I think I would like to see some actors or like people that have been acting and then they move. I've never done acting, and I think you can say this, but I think that the short answer is art. If I had to choose between one of them, of course, if you are a master in both of them, then it's another story. We also have a question from Daphne. So I would like to let's focus on this, and then we will move into the DevRel strategies. And what do you think that makes? I would like to also spice this up. So since you're here to spice things, so what do you think makes a great and a bad DevRel?
Oh, nice.
I want to hear that.
I would just share like my perspective, at least and I think it answers both the great and bad. I think that the essence of great DevRel practice is empathy. And this is something that if you're able to practice in the most authentic way and to apply it both internally within the organization and externally with all the developers that you're building relationships with, this is what makes you great. I think that the place where DevRels sometimes fall short is when they give up on authenticity, on empathy, on these kind of things in favor of obtaining some hardcore goals. And these hardcore goals can be earned, you can achieve them. Not always it's through the shortest way, that just being very direct and trying to sell something or market something, but there's a different way. And that way is through relationships, and relationships are being built through authenticity, vulnerability, and being very much aware and giving empathy to the other side. And so I think this is like the essence, like the core. Maybe a little bit too philosophical. It's hard for a lot of people to translate that to action, but this is why we've brought here such great speakers and panelists to help us unbundle that.
Yes. Thank you, Nimrod. And yes, we also have some questions about DevRel strategies for later. And yes, I think that it's what really makes a great DevRel is their capacity to connect with people. I think it's a sort of thing that I don't think it's a talent. It's something that you get used to, and the way you connect with those people, no matter like the role you are currently having. That it really makes a great DevRel. Ellie,
I'd love to add something to
Amanda.
that, actually.
Amanda first.
So that's always where I start too. Same place Nimrod did. Like, it's about the empathy. But I think something that I don't hear people talk about a lot, because this you find out more once you've been, Tessa's here. And Perduma too, I saw. Once you join a company, one thing you really realize that you need is flexibility and curiosity. Plans are constantly changing with what's going on in companies, especially in tech. Tech is a fast-moving place. And so you also have to be a person that is okay with change, usually. Okay with, hey, I pitched this idea, I tested this idea, didn't quite work out. I need to be flexible enough to let it go and be able to be creative and curious enough to come up with 3 to 5 other ideas in its place. So, and I knew the empathy going into it. I knew I needed to care about developers. That I had, but I don't think that I knew when I first started how fast moving the world can be as well. And there's a lot of change, and you need to be a person that's okay and embraces it, and that doesn't throw you off.
Yeah, thank you, Amanda, and yes, thank you. Ellie, do you think that you'd like to give some definitions for great or bad DevRel?
I think you guys covered a lot of it, but yeah, I would say about the empathy thing, like imagine a DevRel that can't actually talk to people and, have good conversations. Like I think it's a very people-facing role in a lot of ways. Like maybe you're invited to this podcast type of, stream, or you're doing talks at a conference, or you're at the booth at a conference. Maybe it's not always people-facing, but I think the majority of the time you are talking to people. So if you don't have a, pretty high level of people skills, I think that would be very difficult for you. And then if people started noticing in your workplace, like, oh man, this person can't really talk to people, then it would be hard to keep your job probably. So, and then like Amanda said, in addition to that, like everything is changing, right? So if you can't adapt and, kind of jump from place to place, it's going to be very chaotic. And I think maybe that doesn't mean you're a bad person or not a hard worker, but it might just not be a good job for you. Like there are other jobs where you're focused on one thing all the time, right? And, people excel at that, but this is a type of job that you need to kind of be able to like jump on one thing and then jump on another thing. And you've got like 10 different things going on at once. And it might be stressful, but not to the point where you're like shutting down, right? So I would say both of those points were really good. And then like what would be a good DevRel, I guess, is just the opposite, right? You can talk to people and then also jump from thing to thing. I don't know if there's anything else that you didn't mention, though. I think you guys covered everything.
Yeah, thank you, Ellie. I don't know what you're talking about when you talk about doing different activities. Usually you do only one thing as a DevRel, right? But yeah, we have some questions. I would like to pick this one from Arindam, which is very similar to the question that I wanted to ask. So let's start to get into the main topic of today. And so how can we approach DevRel strategies for a dev tool company that's new? And we know that like many tools, they are new, they've been new for a while. So, and they have a very new community. I think this is a very, very great question. It also happened to me in the past to work for a company that had like a super, super small community. And so what do you think is this? Maybe I would like to ask Ellie. I don't know. I don't think that business was like small, like when you joined, but still like maybe that sort of phase. So maybe you are the best person like try to answer this.
Right. I think I've never worked for a company where it's huge, like the community. Maybe you're doing some sort of event and there's hundreds of people there. So I don't really know how that is. But I would say, you know, if you have a smaller community, I think making the genuine connections with each of those people is really important in the beginning, like, you know, validating they exist. And I've seen some people, you know, they're just going along and they'll make announcements and they won't even recognize that these users or these people actually exist, right? And or interact with them in other ways, besides, you know, getting feedback or something like more professional, I guess, like, oh, let's gather the metrics, the feedback. But I think like having those genuine connections with them and making them feel like, oh, they are playing a part in the community is really important. And then kind of that as a community grows, they will still remember that. And obviously, I think this is just me imagining, if there was, you know, 200 people in a stream, it would be hard to acknowledge literally every single person. But I do think that like maybe the core original members would remember how it was. But maybe, I don't know, Amanda, if you have experience with that, like how do you acknowledge people if there are so many people in the community and make them feel like you're actually listening? Maybe the DevRel team would have to be bigger in that case. I don't know.
Yeah. So to go first back to the original question, I'm not the best to answer that. So I came into supporting developer tooling on Wix. Wix has been around since 2006. They haven't had dev tools forever, but the brand awareness was already there. So the challenge is slightly different. So I'm not the best to say, but I would say potentially one thing that I would consider is if you're starting a community from scratch for a tool that nobody knows about, don't necessarily put it in a walled off place. Don't put it in Discord. Don't put it in Slack. Have a forum first. Work on that forum SEO so that as your marketing team works on getting the name out there, when people search for your name in Google plus whatever question they have, then they land on a forum that you've been working on making an inviting place because you'll have that SEO value. And then maybe later you expand into Discord. When I first started with Wix, all we had was a forum. And now we have actually several Discord communities because we're kind of, we have different kind of intentions with builders on Wix. It's not all developers. Sometimes it's no coders and designers. And so we started out kind of more with that SEO forward, searchable, findable, make sure your community is discoverable so that you don't have to work as hard. And then to Ellie's question, how do you support users? Because we do have a really big community at Wix, and that is harder. And you just have to be really available. Of course, you have to have people that are dedicated to the community. You do end up needing a bigger team. Like we don't have one DevRel team at Wix. I support one product. And then we have other DevRels that support our other products. And then they can run those communities how they want, kind of based on the age of the product a lot of times and how many people are interested in it. This product I support, Wix Studio, is one of our larger products. So it's a different kind of vibe. And then you always find those kind of champions, those people who are the closest, who are the most active. And when you lift those people up, then they support the other people and bring other people closer to your community. And then you get to know them. The other thing I like to do is when I do developer office hours, which tend to be smaller attendance because they're all within the Discord community, any new faces I see come in, even if they didn't talk, I try to always go send DMs to people and say, thank them for coming in. Let them know they're welcome to jump in or interrupt, ask them if they have any questions, just to let them know that like, hey, I noticed you, welcome to the community, glad you stopped by. And like, that's a big deal for people, is just like kind of that recognition and being available, I think.
I totally agree. I want to add my 2 cents to that part of the question that relates to the very new community or new company that's just getting started. I think that from my perspective and from our experience growing the daily dev community to more than 1 million developers, is that in the very, in the very beginning, it's all about asking yourself, what is actually moving my needle, right? What am I trying to optimize for? And what is going to move the needle? And when you're very small, the things that are moving the needle are very different than the things that are going to move the needle when you're hard, right? So when you're big, sorry. So when you're just getting started and you have, I don't know, 5 people in your community, sometimes even 0, right? But let's say you've done some stuff and you've started building relationship. You know 5 people. You have 5 people in this like inner circle of folks who appreciate what you're building and that you're helping them out win and enjoy the product that you're working for. The next milestone is probably go to 10, right? And what I oftentimes see, not only DevRels, but generally speaking, everyone who's trying to build communities, is that the easiest thing is to try and copy success of larger companies. But as a matter of fact, that success has been built through iteration, and it has been built over time. And if you're trying to kind of like ingest everything in day one, that's going to be very difficult. That's going to be a huge defocus. So what I normally encourage people is asking themselves, hey, what's the metric, or what's the thing that I'm trying to move on? What's the next closest milestone? And do that. And then what's the next? And go with those like small wins instead of looking for like a big home run. And over time, if you're consistent, you'll see the trend. You'll see things working out, and that's one part of the playbook. Let's say that you think in smaller steps. But the second thing, which is tapping to what both you, Ellie, and Amanda mentioned, which is the fast pace of things that are changing. That oftentimes when you want to unlock your next step, you would need to use completely different skills and completely different set of tools. So if you're a community of 10 people and you want to get to 1,000, you would probably need a certain skill set. But when you want to take this 1,000 to 100,000, that would probably require you to introduce more tools, more activities, more experiments. You can never know what actually is going to work. And try to not fall in love with everything that you do, because there's some things that you will work for you to some extent, and then they will saturate, they will stop working, and you will need to reinvent yourself. And so those 2 parts, thinking in like small increments, small segments, small milestones, and not falling in love with whatever technique that took you to the next milestone, and always trying to innovate is something that I found highly efficient.
Thank you, all of you. I would like to add something super quick. I think that if there is really this new tool and you really need to get started with the community, I think probably focusing, like you have an advantage. So it's like having a very small account on social media, so you have probably less noise. So at the beginning, maybe there are 10 people using your product, but they are like people who are really using it even without promoting it. So I would really focus on those 10, 5, 4 people and trying to understand and maybe do something with them, and maybe invite them, talk to them, and then you will see. So I will start from there. I will start from what you have, and not just trying to do something, because you don't have even the reach to do that. So at the beginning, probably connecting with fewer people might be counterintuitive, but it might work in the long run if you want to have like a long product that has a very long life. This is how I will do it. So yeah, we have more questions, but before going that, I would like to ask to both Amanda and Ellie about how you developed your strategy, or something about that you can share about your strategy at your current company. So something that you want to talk about how you developed a DevRel strategy for your company. Anything you want. You don't have to say everything, of course, I know, but I don't know, or maybe something that you think that it's very relevant for today's topic.
Throw us a bone.
I feel like Amanda is gonna have a better answer again, so I'll go first.
I love Ellie's way to.
All of my answers are prefaced with Amanda is awesome. Okay, I'll stop. That's the last one. But I would say, so, at Pieces, we have a DevRel team, right? And Jim is the head of DevRel. So Jim is like the master of DevRel. I look up to him. He knows all of the things about DevRel. And I'm like, okay, give me advice. And so I'm definitely, it's not me developing the entire Pieces DevRel strategy. No, but I would say like the things that I'm working on, are, developing the Discord community and kind of engaging our community as much as possible. So that means like doing at least 1 or 2 events every week. We're going to be doing way more events starting in January. So I'm really excited about that. There's going to be different types of events. So, keep an eye out for that. But yeah, I mean, like since I've started, I've seen new people start joining. And like you said, Amanda, like, if you acknowledge the couple people that continuously come, I don't know, Richard's probably still in here. I think they like it. They feel happy and they want to join again because it's sort of like a hangout session for them. And they also learn about, maybe the product and also whatever the topic is. So for example, like daily.dev people are all here learning about DevRel. Maybe they are not doing anything related to DevRel, but they're here because of Francesco. Who knows? So that's kind of what I've been working at, is just developing the community and kind of connecting with people on a more personal level. And yeah, I think that's pretty much my goal. And then kind of expanding on that and running some experiments starting in January. So we'll see how that goes, but I'm very excited. I'm like roping in a bunch of our machine learning engineers for some cool machine learning events. So you'll see that.
For us, it's probably maybe similar. Well, maybe not similar to how Ellie's team is, but we don't have like one person that drives the strategy in Wix within kind of developer relations and marketing. It's a really collaborative environment, which is really cool. This is my first DevRel team, so I don't know if that's normal. I really like it though, because it is strategies driven by a little bit of everybody, right? So we've done a lot of things. Like I said, we started with just a forum, and then I very early on was like, the developers want a place to hang out. Why don't we use Discord? And then we started that, and then it became successful. And then it was like, okay, maybe Discord's good for other parts of our community. And then the most recent thing we did was our community got a little too dispersed, but the product I support is a product that developers and designers and different kinds of builders of all skill levels use. So we actually just recently brought the two communities together. So now they can find each other. So non-developers can maybe find, hire, and collaborate with developers. And so we're always thinking about, okay, what's our community doing? What do they need? And we could have easily just been like, oh, everything's growing, everybody's comfortable, they're having a good time. But what we saw was there was like this kind of divide between the developers talking and then all these people that might need to know about the developers. And also the stuff that happens in the no-code side of the platform is important to the developers too, as far as how they need to interact with it via the APIs and via their JavaScript. So there's things like that. There's like, we make little tweaks all the time, and there's big things happening too. I wasn't involved with this effort, but we really went all in on community this past year. And there's a lot of like local chapters. Like we support local Wix studio developers, builders, people that want to run meetups. We'll support you with that. And so we set up like local in-person kind of advocates, ambassadors, things like that, versus just virtual things. And they hired somebody to do that. So yeah, sometimes you just need to expand your team for some of these ideas that come up. But yeah, I'd say we're focusing on mostly, at least within the community space, what small things can we do to take what's working really well so far and take it to the next level. And yeah, nothing else I can really share for the next year, but we definitely have a lot of cool things coming.
I also can I comment really quick on something Amanda said?
For sure.
Yeah, we also sort of have a similar thing, like where people are kind of focused on different areas, if that makes sense. So it's not necessarily that like one person is saying, oh, do all this stuff, but kind of people are owning their own areas, if that makes sense. Like Ollie, he's doing all these really cool workshops. I don't even know. I mean, a huge amount of people going to these workshops, and I'm like, oh my God, that looks so scary. But I'm really excited about that. I think, people owning their individual areas, and then also collaborating between those areas, if that makes sense. I don't know if that is something that you feel happens at Wix or at daily.dev, like people have their own areas and not necessarily working literally all on the same things at the same time.
Yes, I think that it depends on the size of the team. But yes, so thank you, Amanda, and thank you, Ellie. We have we have many questions also from Daphne, but I don't know, Nimrod, if you wanted to if you have anything you want to ask to have a discussion about.
I think my only point about strategy is that it's oftentimes just your base for changes, right? So you start with this strategy, and it probably consists of a lot of different experiments that you're hoping to succeed at some point, and you want to have some sort of like logic of why you're doing things, which is the most important part, right? So there's the logic of why you're doing things, and then there are the actual things that you're doing. So you have certain logic, and then you can apply it in the form of events, in the form of running a forum, in the form of going to in-person meetups or whatever. The most important part, I think, in a strategy is the logic. The implementation could be very different. So being flexible with it and paying close attention to what actually resonates and what actually can get you the result is something that is quite important, because there's a fine line between things that are genuinely like fun and things that are both fun and efficient. And sometimes also there are things that are just efficient and are not fun. I mean, we have to admit it also happens in DevRel and probably in a lot of other professions. I think developers would argue that the fun part is mostly on the weekends, on the side projects. But yeah, for what it's worth, it's a big part of everyone's journey.
Yes, thank you, Nimrod. And
I'm curious to ask, like, Amanda and Ellie, what is the best advice, the best career advice that you've ever got, and who gave it to you?
Oh, I have a good one. Okay. This is how I got this job. I was at Render, okay, with Francesco, but he was not involved in this career advice. So I was at a engineering leadership workshop, which is weird because I was not, obviously an engineering leader. I just thought the person hosting it, Kelly, do you know Kelly? I think her last name is pronounced Vaughn, Kelly. Okay. She was hosting the workshop. I was there hanging out, and her workshop was awesome, by the way. I think she does it online too. And I know she gives really good advice. So I went up and asked her about, I really wanted to work at Pieces. And I was like, what should I do? And she was like, just ask them. Like, just ask, say what you want and then just ask. And I was like, no, I'm not going to do that, And she was like, no, you can actually just go and say, hey, I really want to work here. What can I do to work here? Like, what? And I was like, that sounds kind of too weird, too forward, but actually it worked. And they were like, oh yeah, well, we really like you and blah, blah, and now I'm working here. So I think that is a really good piece of career advice. Like, somebody might want to work with you and they don't even know that you want to work with them. And if you don't ask, it goes for anything. You'll never know. And you might miss out on an opportunity by not putting yourself out there. And what's the worst that can happen? They'll be like, no, we do not want to work with you. Like, well,
the person who now leads
bad.
growth at Facebook, had a very similar story, which now the only missing part is that Pieces will be as big as Facebook. The first part, like, you already nailed. So now just the second part.
Exactly. Kidding. All we have to do is wait. But yeah, I think that happens to a lot of people, right? Like, they ask for something and then they get it and they're like, well, that's awesome. Wouldn't have gotten it if I didn't ask. I would just be sitting on my computer still applying for jobs on LinkedIn. So yeah, anyway, that's my piece of advice.
Mine is similar. I don't have like that one like aha moment where I'm like, holy moly, like this is all working out and I had no idea. But it was a series of people basically always telling me the same thing. And I think this is common throughout devs, actually just throughout humans probably, is feeling like I need to be a little bit better. I need to have a little more skills. I need to have a little more this. I need to have a little more that before I do X, Y, Z. And throughout my career, whenever I've like wanted something, or I'll be like talking to a friend, or I'll be like wanting to get to the next income level or that next career choice or whatever, everybody's just like, you can do it. Like, I know you, like, just go for it. Go for it is the best career advice I've ever been giving. Like, stop waiting for the perfect moment. Go for it. And also know your worth. Like, as this is big in like, I'm a terrible negotiator. I'm still getting better at it. But know your like monetary value too, like, know the monetary value of the skills that you bring. And then like, I don't know, if you're an imposter syndrome person, add a few dollars to it because you're probably worth more than you think you are. But ask for what you want, know your worth, and also just go for it. It's kind of like, what's the worst that can happen? Somebody might say no. And if they say no, the other great advice is ask for feedback. Not everybody will give it to you, especially in this age of like automated recruiter ghosting emails and things like that. But if you get to a human and then you get a rejection, if it's a job, talk to them, find out what you can do better, to what's missing, like, because it probably isn't what you think it is. Because we're all really hard on ourselves. So go for things, know your worth, ask for what you want, and yeah, just keep going.
Francesco, what's the best advice you've ever got?
I had some time to think about this, but I don't know if I can find a specific one, because usually I never ask, or I don't listen to specific advice from people. And maybe let's say that
that's also an advice. Don't listen to advice.
No, but I'm not saying this because I think it's more than like the way I'm done. So basically, I like to see what people do well. For example, I started also surrounding myself with good, great developer advocacy. I think the first person who ever mentioned developer advocacy, it was James Quick. I think it was October 2020 in that famous interview series. So probably I heard from him the first time, let's say the about developer advocacy. I don't know if it was an advice by someone, but I think that, for example, for me, what really worked in the career is to get things done. For example, when I decided to switch career to tech, I had the computer science degree that was not done yet, so I decided to finish it. So probably finishing a phase of your life and then to start another one is probably a great advice, because you do something, you do that thing well, and then you start something else. So this really helped. Exclusive advice and listen to good advice. Listen to good advices can be a great advice. I see Tessa here. Yes. Telling me I'm not good enough. Yes, Tessa is great, by the way. I want her for sure in the next table. So get ready for 2025, Tessa, because I really want you here. Yes. Great. Yes. So we already crossed the 40 minutes. I'd like to let's try to have. I would like to have some more time to talk about something specific about the strategies. So how do you develop a DevRel strategy? Maybe I have one question, which might be like, what do you think is something that you should do to develop a DevRel strategy from zero? I don't know, let's imagine that you start with a new project, fresh, new group. So what do you think is something that you will do to create an effective DevRel strategy? Would like to go?
No one wants.
Ellie keeps saying I'm going first, so I was like,
you are first, Amanda.
I was gonna let Amanda go first. I was like, I've gone first too many times.
Oh man, all of me is like, well, I have questions. It depends. So I'm gonna make the assumption for this question that if this company, this like magic company we're talking about, is hiring at least their first DevRel, that they have a product that is well documented. Because something I've noticed when I've talked to maybe earlier, I'll talk to anybody who DMs me on LinkedIn, even if I'm not necessarily looking for a job. And so I've talked to people before that are founders looking for their first DevRel hire, and then I'll go look at their product, and I wouldn't even be able to know how to use it because the documentation is terrible. It's not there yet. And I was like, well, you need to get that in line first. Maybe that's what you want your DevRel to do. Maybe you want them to be part of your docs journey. Some DevRels documentation is part of what they do. In my company, it's much bigger. There's an entire docs team to take care of that I work with, but I don't ever touch the docs. So the first thing to have an effective DevRel strategy is to be able to know, and if you're applying for that first DevRel role, this is a question to ask is, why are you hiring for this role right now? What's success mean for you? Like, what is it? What does the company hope to get out of having this role? So if you can't answer why you have a dev advocate on your team as like somebody hiring, that's not a good thing, because then that person's not going to know what to do. They're going to make up some goals, of course, but they're not going to have that kind of like Nimrod was saying, that kind of like, this is the big star in the sky that we're going for. So you have to say, well, what are the big goals that we're going for? Are we building brand? Are we very like top of funnel, for like a marketing term here? We just need people to know about us. And then eventually we need people to use us and be closer to us. Like, so it's a lot of figuring out, where does DevRel fall in this organization? How mature is the product? How mature is the documentation? Is there a community, or are you starting it from scratch? And then what goals can you make that'll help you get closer? Knowing that you're probably going to have to experiment and pivot a lot, but being able to define those big goals with whoever you answer to. Within a small company, you might work directly with the CEO. There might not be other teams in between you and that person yet. So talk to them, have a real conversation about what that looks like and what they're hoping to get, and why they brought you in now. Because some companies definitely do bring DevRel in too early, and then they're setting them up for failure. So there's I have so many questions that I'm basically not answering that question very well. So maybe Ellie has a more direct response there.
I don't know if I have a more direct response there. My response was way different than your response, because I'm not involved in like hiring DevRel people, right? Like, I'm not the CEO or the hiring people. So I don't really think too much about that, I guess. But I guess for like a DevRel strategy, when it's on an individual level, if you were thinking about starting some initiative, you're like, this is the best idea ever, and it's going to change the whole community, and everybody's going to love our product, and they are going to have such a good time and use our product more, and we're going to get more users, and all of the amazing things from your amazing idea. I feel like an important thing is to run this idea by a couple people that you even outside of your company, like people that you admire, and you're like, all right, these people have a lot of experience in this area, whether it's like community building, or if you are doing something with documentation and you have this like unique idea for it that maybe has not been done, or it's unusual, I guess it's probably a good idea to run it by at least a few people, because every time I do that, somebody's like, did you think about this? And it's something that you wouldn't have thought of on your own maybe. And you're like, oh yeah, that's something like huge that could impact this negatively possibly. And if you had just gone by yourself, like, I'm going to do this idea and just try it by myself, then you would have run into these blockages and probably wasted a lot of time. So I would say that's a big deal. And I mean, that goes for anything. Like, you're developing a new feature. Like, do people actually want this feature, right? That's why you ask your users, like, is this something you're interested in? So that's kind of my response, but I guess that's I'm not sure if that really answered the question or not.
We're terrible, Fran. Ellie made me think of one more thing too about that. Something that you said that I think is so important for new DevRels or solo DevRel, dev advocates, depending on who's listening here in the chat. You need a network outside of your team, outside of your company, outside of your product. It helps so much with creativity. It helps so much seeing what other teams are doing. And also, yeah, a place to run your ideas by. Not because, again, like I think Tessa was saying, like, not all advice is good advice, but you can still like hear it, let it wash over you. But yeah, build your network of other developer advocates, because even in my company, where we do actually have multiple dev advocates and they're all doing different things, it's still cool to hear from other perspectives. This is my first job and I've been here for 3 years, and there's a lot I've learned, but there's a lot I've learned about Wix and about the developers that are there. And there's so many people that have worked in all different kinds of companies that have a lot of great insights to offer. There's a lot of great leaders in this space. So build that network too, of just other people you can bounce ideas off of and get creative with, because you'll also run into like walls too, where you'll have this great idea, you'll pitch it. Everybody in your company is like, no, Ellie, you can't do that. And you're just like, man, and you will hit walls, just like writers hit writer's block and things like that. So having people that energize you in your own industry but aren't on your product is also super critical to helping build your strategy and get new ideas outside of your own bubble.
So I love these answers, and I want to switch gears to a totally different type of question, getting us ready towards the end of this great roundtable. Are you ready for it? So the question is, imagine your DevRel philosophy, or you as a DevRel, is embodied by an animal. What would it be, and how does it reflect your style? Francesco, you got to answer this too.
I think I don't know. I would like to say something like very great, like a lion or a dragon, but I think it's more like an octopus. So like you have to do many things at the same time. So this is the first animal that came up in my mind. So probably that's the animal. So animal, that has to do many different things. Sometimes it has to stretch. Sometimes it has to focus on something. So, and this is absolutely 100% improvised question. So I didn't have a prepared answer. I think I nailed it 100%. That's my final answer. Now try to improve this one.
All right, Ellie, what's your animal?
I don't know. I've been thinking of many animals in my mind. I keep going back to cats just because I love cats, but obviously I don't really know how that ties into DevRel at all. And also cats, I feel like, don't want to hang out with you. They're on their own kind of schedule, so it's really a terrible DevRel animal. And then I thought of dogs.
But they always land
I
on
don't
their
really
feet,
like dogs.
right?
Right, they always land on their feet, so that's good. But I don't know. I have to go to Amanda first. I have to think about it more.
Well,
maybe the chat needs to drop their DevRel animals. Inspire me.
First of all I really want to do is put DevRel plus whatever animal into like Mid-Journey or something, or like I want to see what AI gives me an image for these things. But I am definitely the DevRel puppy. Like, I am excited. I want to go everywhere the developers are going. I am really excited in the community. Like, I am a high energy DevRel. A lot of times I'm excited about what people are building and doing this and that. And I always want to, like, even in friends, like, do you want to do this event? Yes, I want to do this event. Like, very DevRel puppy. So that's probably my animal.
Okay. I after you said that, I thought of an animal. All right. I don't know if it's like a chimpanzee or a monkey or some sort of like monkey type animal. And I think they like live in communities, right? And they care about each other and they like eat bugs off each other's backs or something. I don't know. But I feel like, it's a community animal. I don't really have a good answer for that, but they're really flexible. They are high energy sometimes, and then sometimes they are just chilling out with their friends, their family members. So I feel like that's sort of a DevRel thing too, right? You have to go to a conference and be super high energy for like 3 days straight, and then you can just chill a little bit, but do your community maintenance activities and think of some new ideas. Yeah, I'm going to go with chimpanzee. I don't know if it's a good one, though. And they're really loud sometimes. I feel like you have to be a little bit loud to be a DevRel, right? They're like screaming, but not in a mean way. They're nice. So
Brilliant.
Anyway, I feel like that's just a terrible answer, but we'll see.
I'm really enjoying this question and the chat too.
So Amanda won because ChatGPT is closer to what Amanda said. So Amanda won this game. I also, of course, I made a post about tell us what do you think is the best representation of an animal in DevRel. And yes, now we can talk about, we can keep going with this conversation again, but that was a great one, Nimrod. What do you think is the animal that best represents DevRel?
What I think is the best animal. I'm not a DevRel, so it's really hard for me to respond. But I like the ChatGPT answer with the border collie because I'm a dog person. I mean, I gotta balance things to the other side. So
great. I also would like to highlight the answer by Dennis Ivy. Whatever animal, a squirrel, gotta be curious and everywhere at hunt once. You need to come, of course, on these DevRel roundtables, Dennis. And yes, great. So, okay, so this was our first episode about this DevRel roundtable. I think that we talked about DevRel strategies. We also had a bit of topics, but it's fine for being the pilot episode. So I'm happy with that. I would like Nimrod for you to host more of these if you can. That would really make me very, very happy. And now I would like to end from Amanda and Ellie, and Nimrod, of course, if you want, with a tip, let's say for new developers to develop a strategy. So do you think that, what do you think it might be something that can help, I don't know, someone who just got hired at their first DevRel role, or maybe they will find their first DevRel role, and then they probably need to start developing a strategy. So what do you think is a tip that you would give to those people? Thank you.
I'm going to go off of what Dennis just said about squirrels. I think especially if you just got a job as a DevRel, it's your first time, then you have, and this goes for literally every job, you have a couple weeks where you can ask really stupid questions, right? I would ask as many stupid questions as possible and be really, really curious, find out what other people are doing on your DevRel team, and write some notes down and talk to other people in your community that like Amanda mentioned earlier. It's good to have that external community, not just the people that you are working with, to bounce ideas off of. I think that would be totally okay. If Francesco, you could be like, I have this idea, what do you think? And especially in the beginning, people are not going to be like, come on, you've been here for 2 years. Why are you asking this? So that's my advice.
So being like a DevRel toddler, something like that, like a kid.
Yes, exactly.
I do want to correct one thing Ellie said. You can ask stupid questions for 3 years straight. I am still doing it. But I'll always ask stupid questions. Well, there's no stupid question. Well, there are, but there's no stupid questions. But there's always something I don't know. So never be afraid of raising your hand. What I would say, and this is kind of what I did when I first started, because I had been a developer, but this is my first DevRel role. And the first thing I did, besides, of course, learn the product, to learn the product as user one and write everything down, because your 0-day experience in your product, you're going to come up with ideas naturally that are going to be relevant to the developer community. But the second thing, other than just learning the product and the company and asking all the stupid questions along the way, go get into the community space day one. If it's a forum, if it's 3 people in a Slack, I don't care who it is, go get to know the developers that have made this product part of their life in some way and get to know them, chat with them about what they're building, and you'll, again, these ideas will come up, and ask them what they want. If these are people that have dedicated time to being in your community spaces that you're coming into, they have ideas. You won't necessarily be able to promise them anything, but you'll get ideas from just getting to know them, because they already care. They're already there. The other people that's really fun to ask is go talk to the developers building the product that you're going to be supporting, because they build stuff on the side too. They play around, and they usually have little side projects that never make it to the light of day necessarily from like a marketing perspective. But sometimes it's cool stuff that then can be turned into maybe a cool demo. Oh my God, you should show this to the community. They've never used this API this way. They would think this is really cool. Like, just talk to people. So, and that's kind of part of what you're hired to do. As we've talked about, you need that empathy. You need that kind of love for humans, and developer humans especially. Go talk to everybody, and those ideas are going to come to you naturally. You're going to have more than you know where to start at first, is how I feel.
Thank you, Amanda. My small tip is to write everything down on paper, on the whiteboard, notes, because you're about to forget everything. So write everything you want to do in the company. Maybe you have, those ideas. You will hate yourself if you don't write that idea down. So write everything and put this somewhere, scratchbook or whatever. But this is my advice, because it can really help, and having like a place where we put our ideas, even bad ideas, worst ideas, just put them there. And also something that you want to ask. Maybe you have an idea, but it's like 2 a.m., 3 a.m., you can't reach out people to ask stuff, but maybe you can ask them tomorrow. So that's my little tip. Okay, I think that we are done with this first DevRel Roundtable. So I think that 2025 will be bright. We will invite people. We will invite you back all of you, of course. I really love DevRel because it's really about like showing our point of view and our perspective. This is why I like DevRel so much, because it's not like a one answer. We work for different companies, different sites, different projects, different tools. And yes, so thank you. And before we close, I would like to give a huge shout out to both Wix and Pieces. So I left the links in the description. So Amanda and Ellie, they are doing really a mind-blowing job, both of them. And I really appreciate both of you for what you do and all the activities that you do, that you organize. Really, really great. Thank you. Thank you so much. I left the links. I hope you enjoyed it. Nimrod, what do you think? Can we wrap up this first episode? Will there be an episode 2?
There will be episode 2, and even more than that. And I have a feeling that there is one question that's going to repeat itself with every episode, but I'm not going to say which question.
Yeah, if you want to know that, you need to come on the next episode. The next episode will be, of course, in 2025. So that's we will find a great topic. And thank you so much, Amanda. Thank you, Ellie. Nimrod, you're always welcome. I would like you to have, ideally for all the episodes, but at least, let's say, some of them. Okay, perfect. By the way, this episode will still be available on YouTube. No worries. And see you in the next one in 2025. Bye, everyone. Bye-bye.